Dear students, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to OLT 133, Language and Literature. I welcome you to Module 2 of this course, and this Module 2 is about the uniqueness of human language. I'm Johanna Makega John, one of the instructors of this course from the Open University of Tanzania. With the uniqueness of human language, we are going to see the issue of creativity in human language. But we shall also talk about the basic functions of language, the contextual factors determining language in action, and the discourse of analysis, which includes two important aspects: cohesion and coherence. To begin with creativity, sometimes called recursion or openness. Creativity is one of the major characteristics of human language. It refers to a kind of style in manipulating language. Creativity is done by artists, whereby new meanings are formulated out of ordinary ones. It is the quality that allows the effective use of the finite rules in linguistics to produce a number of non-finite meanings or interpretations. So creativity allows twisting of the language, which in poetry is referred to as the poetic license. Let us see the various forms of creativity in language. The various forms of creativity in manipulating language include the use of deviation, the application of literary devices, the use of structured sound pattern, especially in poems, the style of creating new understanding of meaning, as in foregrounding, prefix and suffix, that is in word formation, the use of ambiguity. Thus, creativity is one of the factors that make human language unique as opposed to animals, which are just getting trained so as to understand or imitate language. Note that under creativity is where we formulate new meanings. Let's look at the basic functions of language. The basic functions of language. Roman Jacobson defined 6 functions of language or communications, according to which an effective act of verbal communication can be described. Each of the functions has an associated factor. For this work, Jacobson was influenced by Karl Burer's organon model, to which he added the poetic, phatic, and metalingual functions. The 6 functions of language include the following. The first function of language is the referential function, then the expressive, alternatively called emotive or affective function, and lastly the sanative function. To begin with the referential function of language. This function corresponds to the factor of context and describes as a situation, object, or mental state. The descriptive statements of the referential functions can consist of both the definite descriptions and deictic words. Take for example, the autumn leaves have all fallen now. The autumn leaves have all fallen now. The expressive alternatively called emotive or affective function, is the second function of language. This function relates to the addressor or sender and is best exemplified by interjections. And other sound changes that do not alter the denotative meaning of an utterance, but do add information about the addressor's or speaker's internal state. You can take an example of, "Whoa, what a new." The third function of language is the sanative function. This function engages the addressee, that is the receiver, directly and is best illustrated by vocatives and imperatives. An example is, "Tom, come inside and eat." That is an imperative statement. Thereafter, let us talk about the contextual factors determining language in action. The contextual factors determining language in action. These are the factors which determine language in action. They include the channel or the medium and its types, age, sex, social background of the speaker, the ethnic background of the speaker, the regional background of the speaker, the educational or the education of the speaker that contributes to his personality, and the economic background of the speaker. Now, let's talk about the discourse of analysis. The discourse of analysis. Literature as a discourse means that it includes some phenomena, like phonological phenomenon that are revealed in works of art through rhyme, meter, the syntactical phenomenon, and semantic phenomenon, which are called linguistic tools to be used in literature. And therefore, literature benefits from linguistics due to the aspect of cohesion and coherence and linguistic tools. To begin with the aspect of cohesion and coherence. When we talk of cohesion and coherence in a piece of communication, we refer to the phenomenon of achieving unity and relevance in a text. Achieving unity and relevance in a text is what is referred to as cohesion and coherence. Both cohesion and coherence are essential features of a text which define its textuality and relevance or meaningfulness. Examples of cohesion and coherence are as follows. Take, for example, this sentence, "Mommy beat John, period. John had come home late, period." This sentence is coherent, but it's not cohesive. The second sentence, "Mommy beat John because he had come home late." This sentence is both cohesive and coherent. Note the conjunction because and the pronoun he. Conjunction because and the pronoun he are the cohesive devices in sentence number 2 above. Both are known as the conjunctive cohesion and referential cohesion, respectively. Taking sentence number 3. Here, Mommy beat John because America is a developed country. Mommy beat John because America is a developed country. This sentence is cohesive, it is well connected, but it's not coherent. This sentence here, sentence number 4, Mommy beat John, period. America is a developed country. This sentence is not cohesive, it's not either coherent. Now let us go into details of the concept of cohesion. Cohesion comes from the Latin word for sticking together, that is according to Sten 2001, page 51. It is a term in functional grammar that relates to how texts, words and sentences are held together lexically and grammatically as a whole. A text that lacks cohesion will be fragmented and disjointed. You have seen examples of sentences that lack cohesion. They are disjointed, they are fragmented, they do not relate to one another. The idea of cohesion was first developed in detail by Roman Jacobson in the 1960s, a pioneer in the application of linguistics in literature with reference to poetry. So cohesion refers to ties and connections that exist within a text. Furthermore, cohesion is regarded as a linguistic means of establishing connectivity across senses or utterances by what Widdowson refers to as formal syntactic and semantic signals, that is, cohesive ties. In other words, in a literal text, cohesion is a term used to describe the grammatical means by which sentences and paragraphs are linked and relationships between them are established. Cohesion establishes connectivity across sentences or utterances within literary texts. There are methods that can be used to achieve cohesion in a discourse. Let us see. I'll talk about 6 ways of giving cohesion to a text. And these are referential cohesion, conjunctive cohesion, elliptical cohesion, substitution, lexical cohesion, and parallelism. Follow me all the way as we go through these ways of achieving cohesion. The first one is referential cohesion. What is referential cohesion? Referential cohesion. This means using pronouns or determiners to refer to the known nouns in a text. Backward referencing is known as anaphoric reference, while forward referencing is called cataphoric reference. In the following text, the instances of each referential cohesion are underlined. Let's see these sentences. Sentence A. Jane had permanent booking at the Star Theatre, but she decided not to go today. So, she refers anaphorically to Jane, and this is anaphoric reference. Sentence B. After several years, as she approached another renewal of her vows, Melissa was called to an interview with a visiting French priest. You can see the pronoun she is underlined, her is underlined, and Melissa is also underlined. She and her refer categorically to Melissa. That is forward referencing. Let's talk about conjunctive cohesion as another means of achieving cohesion in a text. Conjunctive cohesion comprises the use of co-conjunctions, basically involving the three coordinators and, but, and or, and other conjuncts which are of various kinds. Take for example, in the ancient society, the people gathered together in the arena and made laws that guided the land. The conjunction and is underlined. So it is there to serve as a conjunctive device. There are laws guiding the conduct of people in the society, but people break them in their propensity. So you can also see how that is used in that sentence. The other sentence is, where people leave their wills, they have the choice to obey the law or break it. You can see the conjunction or is underlined. It also serves the same purpose. Therefore, in the above examples, the underlined linguistic items or coordinating conjunctions are used cohesively. They are used to enable the sentences to sound cohesive. Let us go to the third aspect of how to achieve cohesion in a text. This is elliptical cohesion. Elliptical cohesion, as we know the concept of an ellipsis. Ellipsis simply denotes a kind of substitution by zero. It deals with the omission of words, while simultaneously relying on the reader's minds to deduce and fill in the missing bits from what they have read or heard before. Substitution by zero. It is used in discourse to avoid repetition and redundancy. In the following text, the words and expressions you can omit are in the brackets. When going through these examples, consider the words that are in brackets so as to understand the concept of ellipsis or elliptical cohesion. The first example, Tina looked back and she saw her parents. Period. They were very happy and she was happy as well. They were strolling along and she was strolling along too. Do you think they got there on time? Yes, I do. Now look at the words that are in brackets. You can omit those words in brackets and yet the sentence is meaningful. For example, you can say, Tina looked back and saw her parents. You omit the word she. They were very happy and she was as well. They were strolling along and she was too. Do you think they got there on time? Yes, I do. So leaving those words makes, or rather enables the speaker to avoid repetition and redundancy, and the sentence is meaningful. Note, ellipses can be realized at different clausal or sentential levels. For example, Mary played and slept. The subject Mary is ellipted in the second clause. One could say Mary slept Mary prayed and Mary slept. But it sounds redundant. It is unnecessary repetition. So one can simply say, Mary prayed and slept. And after lifting the word Mary, the sentence is okay. The next sentence, the rich are getting richer, the poor poorer. The rich are getting richer, the poor poorer. Can you ask yourself, is there any ellipsis in the sentence? Yes. Ellipsis is at the verbal level. Getting. The rich are getting richer. The poor poorer. One could say the poor are getting poorer. So are getting, the verbal level, is omitted. The next sentence, D. He promised to be there yesterday and he was. Can you think of ellipsis in that sentence? Yes, ellipsis is at the adverbial level. There yesterday is left unsaid in the second clause. One could say, he promised to be there yesterday and he was there yesterday. And if one does so, it sounds redundant. It sounds unnecessarily repeated. So it is very, very correct to say he promised to be there yesterday and he was. Let us talk of another aspect, another way of achieving cohesion in a text is that of substitution. Substitution denotes replacing a linguistic item with another. For example, would you like a cup of coffee? One replies, yes, I'd like one. I'd like one. One is here underlined. One could also say, yes, I would like a cup of tea. So here one has been used to replace a cup of coffee. So that is the sense with substitution. The other way of achieving cohesion in a text is lexical cohesion. Lexical cohesion simply means using words to achieve unity in a text. There are four varieties of lexical cohesion. There are four varieties or means of using words to achieve unity in a text. The first one is synonymy. The second is antonym. The third is collocation. And we shall see others. Let us start with synonym. Synonymy simply means using words with similar meanings. Using words with similar meanings. For example, I was this large, real huge. I was this large, real huge. Look at the meaning of the word large and huge. These words are synonymous. That means they have similar meanings. It's a way of achieving cohesion in that sentence. The use of large and huge are related in terms of meaning. B, sentence B, antonym. Antonym simply means using words with opposite meanings. Using words with opposite meanings. For example, get educated. You can't always stay ignorant. Consider the meanings of the words educated and ignorant. They are in opposition. The two words give opposite meanings. And so, that's another way of achieving cohesion in a text as an aspect of lexical cohesion. The third is collocation. Collocation simply means using words that go with each other. Words that go with each other. For example, my friend did me a great favor last week. Would you like a cup of coffee? No, I'd prefer tea. Look at the words that are underlined. My friend, favor, tea. These three words are collocated. And so, this refers to collocation as an aspect of lexical cohesion in achieving cohesion in a text. The other way of achieving cohesion in a text is the use of parallelism. Parallelism. This is repeating the same syntactic pattern or structure. Repeating the same syntactic pattern or structure. Consider the following examples. Example number 1. I came, I saw, I conquered. I came, I saw, I conquered. In this sentence, the subject-predicator pattern is repeated. When we talk of subject-predicator, we mean I as the subject and came as the predicator. So you can see the three senses. They have appeared, or rather they appear in the same pattern. That is, the subject-predicator pattern is repeated. And that's what it refers to the concept of parallelism. Literary artists are very good at the use of parallelism. You can see poems written in this form. You can see novelists and playwrights using parallelism in most of their work. The second aspect of parallelism, the second example of parallelism is united we stand, divided we fail. United we stand, divided we fail. Here, the complement subject-predicator pattern is repeated. United is the complement, we is the subject, and stand is the predicator. So, united we stand, divided we fail. You can see the pattern is repeated. The complement subject pattern is repeated. That is parallelism. Now we are done with the concept of the aspect of cohesion. Let's now talk about coherence. Coherence has been defined differently by different scholars. And here, Quill et al. 1985, 10-2001, and Osisano 2003 argued that coherence has to do with sense. Coherence has to do with sense. Those three writers agreed that coherence has to do with sense. Therefore, when a text or discourse makes sense to a reader, that particular text is said to have coherence. Let's see coherence in discourse. Coherence in discourse manifests itself in discourse by the extent to which a particular instance of language use matches a shared knowledge of conventions as to how illocutional acts are related to form large units of discourse. Coherence establishes some relationship between utterances through an interpretation of illocutional acts. Now let us see the manifestations of coherence. The following constructed conversation explains the manifestations of coherence in discourse. A. I have put a broom in the living room. B. I'm eating my food. C. Okay. If you look at these three senses, you can get something. I have put the broom in the living room. I'm eating my food. Okay. These are three senses that are produced, or rather three utterances that are produced by three different people. The above constructed discourse can be interpreted vis-a-vis the social conversations of interaction, which are identified as follows. I have put the broom in the living room. This person requests B to perform an action. I have put the broom in the living room. He or she is requesting for the other person either to bring the broom from the living room, or rather to take the broom from the living room and use it for some activity. B. I'm eating my food. This person states the reason why he cannot comply. In other words, he or she is telling the first speaker that he has an excuse as to why he cannot do what A wants him to do. And C, okay, this person here undertakes to perform the action. So it's like we have three people. The first one says, I have put the broom in the living room. And the other says, I'm eating my food. That means he is giving the reason why he cannot comply. And there is a third person who says, okay, so he undertakes to perform the action. Now let us see the stylistic values of cohesion and coherence. The stylistic values of cohesion and coherence. Both cohesion and coherence constitute part of the features of textuality which a text must possess to be defined as a communicative piece. But also, both cohesion and coherence are stylistically valuable to the text, as they assist the text to exhibit logical consistency and clarity such as can enable the readers have a good grasp of it. Coherence accounts for the meaningfulness or relevance of a text, while cohesion defines the textuality of a text. In conclusion, it should therefore be noted that while coherence deals with sense, cohesion relates to unity. The concept of sense relates to the notion of meaningfulness or relevance. When we communicate, we create certain lexical and grammatical ties that bind our writing or speech together. Any piece of communication that is logical will be coherent. Any piece of communication that is logical will be coherent. So watch for logicality in any piece of text you analyze stylistically. This marks the end of Module 2. Thank you very much for having followed me all the way through Module 1, Module 2. I hope you'll be with me in the next modules. Thank you very much. My name is Johanna Mkeja John from the Open University of Tanzania. You're welcome.